And we are live. So, YouTube Nation and Dog Pound, welcome to episode 1 of, I guess, a 2-part episode of the Sports Room, because you are going to get 2 episodes back to back of each other. And this is part 1, and it is me, my friend Brian Fraley, who you see that way. Yes, that way. There we go. And then we got Jason down there. Something like that. Sorry, I'm getting my directions a little bit confused. Don't worry about it. Anyway, normally we do this show from the All Sports Cleveland studio, or somewhere at the Ohio Media School, not necessarily the All Sports Cleveland studio, but given the global bastard that is currently happening at the minute and everything that is associated with it, we had to adjust. So we are not going to be deterred, and we are going to keep pushing forward and score the knockout. Welcome to the show, Brian and Jason. You guys want to introduce yourselves a little bit?
Yeah, glad to be here, Josh. Just happy to be here on the Sports Generals with you two, and looking forward to being on So What's the Catch with you later too. So it's going to be a fun day. We got a lot to cover. So hopefully some people join in the chat and participate. I'd love to, hear what some other people have to say.
Yeah. Again, my name is Jason Vaughn. I'm absolutely honored to be here with you guys on the Sports General. Looking forward to the conversation that we're going to have. I'm sure a lot of folks that's going to be viewing this is going to feel the same way that one of the three of us may feel about a certain topic. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'm ready to roll.
Yeah. So we got a lot of great topics for you today. And we're not gonna start off with the Cleveland Browns, which might be a little bit surprising given my recording studio background. Although that might be going through a little bit of a transformation. I might change it to be more Cleveland Cavaliers based, given how the two teams' seasons are going. But we can dive into that later. For now, as I said in the intro, we are going to score a knockout because that's what Jake Paul did against Tyron Woodley. And that's where we're going to start. Now, Jason and Brian, you guys have a little bit of a different perspective of it than I do, because I did not watch the pay-per-view on Saturday. It just didn't do anything for me. I'm like, okay, Jake Paul's fighting Tyron Woodley. Wahoo, wahey. Okay. The only reason I wanted to watch the pay-per-view when they fought initially is because it was here in Cleveland.
Right.
Because Cleveland doesn't get that many big combat sports events, other than like WWE or AEW. But in most people's eyes, pro wrestling like AEW or WWE doesn't count as like a big combat sports event. And I get that. But we're not going to focus on that. What, other than the knockout, which is what everybody's talking about, did anything exciting really happen in the fight, or was it just kind of like your standard boxing match?
I would say
you go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jason. You start.
It was nothing special that stood out except for the Deron Williams, Frank Gore portion of the fight. When it got to the main cards, which was Jake Paul and also Tyron Woodley, it, in my opinion, it lacked a lot of luster compared to the previous fight that they had, which that was a little blah, Mm-hmm. It was a point. It actually got to a point in the fight where and I'm very deep into sports betting, so it's kind of, I got the vibe that we were all being jobbed. And what job means is we were all getting played together as a family. There was a lot of wrapping up. There was no type of strategy seen this time. It was one instance, I would believe, in the second round where Jake Paul got cut right above his eye. And if you're in the boxing world, you know automatically if someone has a cut, work on that cut. So if I know my opponent has a cut, I'm going to keep trying to, if we lock up, I'm going to rub my hair on that cut. It's a lot of gamesmanship things you can do, but you're going to try to attack the cut. And for whatever reason, Woodley felt that it wasn't appropriate to attack the cut, which I was scratching my head because, again, leading into the press conference, they both knew that it needed to be more entertaining. And Tyron Woodley even gave that impression, hey, I'm going to be more aggressive this time. This is what I'm going to do. And he didn't do it. So,
yeah, it was. Yeah, to me, it was a lot of the same from the first fight. And I kind of had that same feeling early on. It was like a lot of the same, neither one of them was being super aggressive. They were clinching a lot, wrapping up. But yeah, the cut too, I'm glad that you brought that up because like that cut was opened up with an illegal elbow. Woodley, he was kind of reverting to his UFC days and he accidentally threw an elbow. I don't think he really meant to do it. It didn't seem like ill intent, but like that's definitely what happened. Like that's what opened up the cut. But I would, and I was shocked too because it's like you got to take advantage of that, and he didn't. And then I was starting to think maybe the fix was in too because it was like these guys they're clinching, they're not doing much, and then man, he caught Woodley off guard, and I'm not sure what Woodley was doing, if he was trying to set something up or what, but he left himself very vulnerable, and I mean Jake Paul hit him with a vicious right hand, and I mean
conspiracy theorists will say, hey, maybe when they plan this this dog and pony show, I'm going to swing here. Don't put your head here. And it probably went in one ear and not the other, and they made a mistake. It got knocked out. I don't know. That's the conspiracy theorist in me, but it was real hair scratching.
Yeah, but there was nothing fake about the punch, that's for sure. I mean, it was just nasty, and it was lights out. It was over. As soon as he connected with that shot, it was over. That kind of shocked me, and then that's where it kind of because I was thinking the same way, like kind of conspiratorial. But once that happened, I was like, I don't know, man. That's a vicious knockout. You'd have to be a very good actor to play that up. You know what I'm saying? Like that. That seemed very authentic to me.
Now I will say this. Now, prior to these last few fights, I thought it was a gimmick, which some people think is entertaining, which it is to me.
You think like Jake Paul boxing is a gimmick? You're saying?
No. At first, I thought it was, but he's been putting in work. He's been training. Each fight, he's getting better. He is adapting. Like last fight was the first time he fought a real conditioned fighter, and he went the distance. And was taking punches. That's big. You can't really gloss over that. But this time, when he got cut, I'm like, okay, that's something he has to adapt to because he's never been cut before, and he weathered the storm. So he's improving and he's taking it serious, and you see it. It's just the axe.
Yeah, sure. I mean, he's 5-0 now. He's knocked out every fighter that he's faced, and I'd love to see him fight a real fighter, which he was trying to do. But I mean, Tyson Fury's brother Tommy backed out, and talk about conspiratorial. Like to me, that just looks like Tommy ducked him. That's what I see.
Josh.
I mean, Jorge Masvidal is trying to get Jake Paul to fight him. I don't know if you saw in the post-fight press conference, I've seen bits and pieces of it. He was calling out like Kamaru Usman and other UFC fighters, and I'm like, Jake Paul, if you step into the UFC octagon, you are going to get killed. Pretty
but that's why he's not going to, though. That's the thing. Like, he's smart enough not to do that.
Yeah.
Like, this is
still-
his thing, and he's chosen to enter boxing, and he's going to stick. I mean, he's making so much money in boxing compared to what they make in the UFC. They're making pennies compared to what he's making in the boxing ring. So, like, there's no
20,000 each fight.
he's got nothing to gain by going over there. You know, he's a businessman. Say what you want about the guy, like, he's making money on these fights. Like,
yeah, that's true.
Sure.
He's one of the biggest draws in the history of the sport. It's called prize fighting, you know, because they fight for a prize, and his prizes are bigger than any other fighters right now.
Right.
And that's crazy, you know, to think that they're fighting for millions and millions of dollars, and it's just crazy.
Would
So,
you
like,
say the Paul brothers are the biggest stars in boxing right now?
I wouldn't go that far. I think they're their own thing. It's kind of like an enigma. Like, I think they're proving to the world that they're more legitimate than maybe a lot of people thought, but it's still kind of its own thing. You know what I mean? It hasn't really integrated into real boxing. You know, he's not climbing the ranks in a weight class and fighting. You know what I mean? So to me, it's still a separate entity. You know, guys like Tyson Fury and Canelo and Lomachenko. I mean, there's some real superstars in the sport that are just classes above, you know, this type of boxing. So no, I wouldn't call them the biggest stars in boxing, but they're the biggest attraction, maybe.
I'm gonna take a different approach. To you, because I really thought about this. I think so. I think they are the biggest stars, and this is why. Star power is about clicks, about pay-per-view promotions, who's going to generate the biggest buzz. Fellas, I got it, and I never thought I would even admit. I never thought I would feel this way, but if you say I'm watching the Jake Paul fight, I'm going to watch it. But if you say if Canelo's coming on, hopefully I'll remember it. Hopefully I remember Canelo's fight. Now, boxing purists say, well, you know, he's not a real boxer. This is a slap in the face of the sport, which I understand that to a degree. But again, the guy's 5-0, and everybody he's fighting, he's beating, and he's generating the most buzz, and he's getting the most money out of it. So I don't see how you can't say he is the biggest star in boxing now.
Yeah, I tell you what, though, a lot of boxing purists are coming around.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're coming around on it because, like you said, like the money is there to be made, and that's what boxing is still. It's an entertainment sport. It's a sport. It's real, but it's entertainment too. You know, like, and so you have to be a draw. You have to have the outside of the ring shenanigans or whatever it is that brings people in and generates excitement, and those two do it better than anyone out there. So in that way, I do agree with you for sure. But I'm not going to say they're the best boxers by any means. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, there's an argument to be made, but that they are, you know, the biggest superstars in the sport. So
I think the biggest problem boxing has a couple problems for it. Right now, it doesn't really have any stars. Like, if I were to say, like, Vasily Lomachenko, people outside of boxing might not know who that is right away. Whereas if I say, like, I feel like people outside of the UFC, the UFC circle are going to recognize maybe not every UFC superstar, but somebody like Conor McGregor that they would probably recognize.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? So I feel like UFC has more of the notable names. Like, and I think part of that is because in boxing, you have so many different companies, which means you have so many different champions. It's not necessarily streamlined as to, oh, he's the champ. Like, we know who the UFC bantamweight champion is. It's Aljamain Sterling. We know who the UFC welterweight champion is. It's Kamaru Usman. We know who the UFC middleweight champion is. It's Israel Adesanya.
Clarity.
Right. Whereas in boxing, like, I think Teofimo Lopez is a champion in one company, whereas Canelo Alvarez is a champion in a different company.
Mm-hmm.
They might not be in the same weight class, but my point is, like, in boxing, there's so many different companies and so many different championships and so many different weight classes. It just gets so confusing. UFC, there's one champion, one weight class, or one champion per weight class. There we go. And you know who that champion is.
Mm-hmm. Simplified.
Exactly.
Sorry about that.
Your dog vehemently disagrees with what I'm saying, I guess.
I guess so.
Seems like it.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. No, I totally agree with you. I think that is one of the things that's to the advantage of UFC is the clarity in the sport. And I agree. It's boxing it's very convoluted and segmented, and it's a different thing in England than it is in the US, and it's a different thing in Russia than it is in China. There's a lot of different things going on in different areas, and UFC, it's like, hey, these are the best of the best in MMA, and like you said, there's one champion per weight class. But just I think it's important to cover stories like this though, because I mean, love him or hate him, Jake Paul's from Cleveland, and he's the biggest star from this area that's out there right now.
Mm-hmm. And I pride myself as just a casual boxer fan. So to piggyback on what you were saying, Josh, I try to watch it. I really try to, but it's hard to catch which channels they're going to be on. Sometimes it's hard to know what the storylines are going into the boxing match, and it's confusing. Whereas UFC, I know who's who. I know when they're going to fight, and I also know that the stars are always going to fight on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Dana White does a phenomenal job of their marketing tactics. So
yeah,
I agree.
And the UFC sometimes it feels like the UFC like tries to build rivalries that aren't really there. But when you genuinely have two fighters in the octagon that have an actual hatred for each other, it just makes you want to watch that pay-per-view that much more. Like, the whole lead up to the Khabib McGregor fight, you could tell there was general disdain between the two fighters, and they wanted to rip each other's heads off. Or like in the second Diaz McGregor fight. I know McGregor's always seems to be at the center of all of these. Which he's good at creating rivalries. What can I say? But it's like, or like when Usman and Covington fought for the second time, I'm like, that first fight was amazing. It seemed like at the time there was genuine hatred between them. So I'm like, I want to watch the second fight and see what happens. Like, are they going to come out like guns blazing like they did the first time? Like, I want to knock your head off its neck or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I agree totally. I think that's something that boxing could use more of, making it more accessible,
Yeah.
And that's something that's happening like through, people like Jake and Logan Paul that are bringing it to new audiences, that are bringing it to a younger audience, that are people who are online, that, use apps and are tech savvy, and, guys like Jake are going to bring those people in, and so I think that he's ultimately going to be good for the sport, because like you're saying, Josh, there's a lot of things that boxing is getting wrong right now. And I think with the amount of money and buzz that they're generating by doing it this way is like opening a lot of eyes, and saying like, shoot, we could do a boxing event on Triller and have Snoop Dogg host it. Like you didn't think of these things before. And I think that that's good for boxing because it's going to generate the buzz that it's not getting right now. So I'm interested to see
for the world.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, I know it's painful and I know that we weren't looking forward to it, but I think we have to talk about what happened over the weekend in that game. Well, actually on Monday, sorry, the game was moved between the Browns and the Raiders. So where do we start?
Honestly, I'm not, even though I'm a Cleveland Browns fan and that's what my channel is built on. Again, I apologize for not doing video collaborations the last couple weeks for the Raiders game or the Ravens games. I know you were probably expecting me to. I came down with with an illness. You can probably figure out which one. And that kept me out of action for a little bit. So I'm going to try and get back on my horse for when we play these guys. See, I have my little Packers magnet. But talking about the Raiders game, it's about what I expected. The Raiders pretty much beat our third string guys. Would we have beaten them at full strength? Yeah, probably. But
I think so. I think for sure.
They
didn't do anything to impress me. Like that win by Oakland wasn't because Oakland played a great game.
Las Vegas.
Or I'm sorry, I cannot break that habit. But yeah, I don't know. Where do you stand with that, Jason? In my opinion, like I think that's an easy win if you don't have 22 people out.
The Browns lost the game versus Las Vegas winning the game.
That's where I'm going with it. Yeah. Of course.
And this is another thing I noticed. There was an instance in the game where they got a pivotal turnover. We was able to pick off David Carr, I'm sorry. And we still end up giving the ball right back to them. And then this time they came through and kicked that game-winning field goal, and that was all she wrote. But the Browns was in it. The play calling, and this is this trend I'm starting to notice with this team. We're not calling the right plays. We have a guy that we signed off the street, Nick Mullins. And the first 10 plays, we probably ran the ball twice or 3 times. You're putting him in jeopardy. He just got here. So run the ball. Use your offensive line. Use Dearness Johnson. Not having your quarterback consistently throw. And this is a trend they've been doing all season, fellas.
I can't believe that they had Nick Mullins throw the ball 30 times. Like
that's ridiculous.
It really is. That baffled me as well. I just don't get it. And I agree that we lost that game, and I will say this about Mullins, though. I mean, he played good enough to put them in a position to win at the end of the day. He did lead them down the field on that drive when we needed to score and scored, and then the defense did their job and created a turnover. And then ultimately on that last drive, they didn't put him in any position to succeed. They had him hand the ball off 3 times and do 3 straight dive plays that everybody knew in the world was coming. So I'm not going to blame Mullins for the loss by any means, but it's just like, to me, it was just puzzling. A lot of the strategy and the play calling on both sides of the ball at the end of the game were just like, it's not fitting with the personnel we have on the field.
It's not. It really
isn't. But we'll talk about this more with the Cavs, but when the Cavs, I'll take this to the Cavs for a minute, and then I'll come back to the Browns because that's what we're talking about. But people are going to say, yeah, the Cavs beat the Bucks, but they didn't have Giannis or Chris Middleton or Drew Holiday or all these guys. Or, yeah, the Cavs beat the Bulls, but they were without DeMar DeRozan and all these guys. So I feel like people are going to say, yeah, the Raiders beat the Browns, but type of thing. If you get where I'm trying to go with that.
But it's the NFL. You know, each team has now, and the COVID protocols is skyrocketing now. But every team has injuries, and every team is missing someone. And the Raiders, we could say the Raiders had a debacle with the John Gruden fiasco early in the season. They had a lot of stuff, a lot of moving parts going on. So everybody got their own problems, like a family. Mm-hmm. Everyone has their own family problems. You just try to deal with it, and you can't make excuses because it is what it is, and everyone knows it. So,
yeah, Vegas didn't come to town riding a hot streak by any means. You know, like they've had a rough year. They've faced some real adversity, and that's why one of the reasons I gave us a chance in that game, you know, was I when you look at it, it's like I wasn't scared by that team or what they were doing. So I thought we had a real chance, and at the end of the game, they just got too conservative, and it was like, man, like this is it. The whole season's on the line right here. Like that victory, if we win that game, we're in a whole different position right now today than we are right now where we're at. We went from being in first in the division, in the catbird seat, you know, control your own destiny, to being dead last.
Right. But we only won a game.
You know, but you get what I'm saying? Like the urgency should have been there. It's like, where is your sense of urgency? I know you're not the real head coach, you know, and I know you're trying to be conservative because you're not trying to do too much and all of that. But like you've got a team on the field and you're in a position to end this game with 1 first down, and you don't get creative at all. You say, we're just going to run it, take as much time off the clock as we can, punt it, and put it in the hands of our defense, which is decimated and has been on the field all day. Like what? It doesn't make, I don't know. I just was like, we should have won that game.
Yeah, the defense won that game. The defense bailed out the offense on so many occasions. It was, and then the offense would go out onto the field, and it would be like 3 plays and then punt, 3 plays, punt, 3 plays, punt, and it's just like, okay, you can't keep doing that.
If it was a different scenario, if that Joe Woods defense wasn't what it is right now, like if it was a good defense with a good coach, like it'd be a different discussion, you know. But like, why are you going to put all of this pressure on the defense that's in the hands of a guy who has been running it questionably from day one? You know, so it's like, really, you're the temporary head coach. You're the guy they put in the position to make these calls. And what do? You pawn it off onto the worst coach on the team, maybe?
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
You see what I'm saying? It's like, what has Joe Woods and his defense done to make you think that that's a good game plan?
I don't know.
It's just puzzling, man. It's.
I know it feels like the world is, and trust me, I felt bad about it. I really did after the loss, but I just want to bring some other things to the light, just to assure everyone the season technically isn't over. Party's not over with. You still got a couple of years left in the party.
Right.
First thing is, we're only a game out of first. Cincinnati Bengals are 8-6. Everybody else 7-7. Right.
Mm-hmm.
We have the tiebreaker over the Bengals. We mopped them. Mm-hmm. We played them again. The final game of the season. That is going to be absolutely pivotal. We win that game, we're still back in the talks. But again, we got to wait for a lot of other factors, and that's the problem. That sucks because you control. You want to control your own destiny. We can't.
Yeah, but Jason, you're absolutely right.
Got to beat the Packers, man.
Right.
Yeah. Nothing to do with it.
You think?
If we get some guys back, you know, because at this point, the problem is we don't know what our roster is going to look like.
Mhm.
So it's like when you're trying to make picks and it's just so unpredictable right now. Like, but if we get some guys back and this COVID thing that's going on is going to hit Green Bay, just like it's hit Cleveland, it's going to hit everybody. You know, by the time we play on Christmas Day, they might be without Aaron Rodgers. You never know. You know what I'm saying? So I'm with you, Jason. Like, don't shut the book on the season yet. But I just think that, like, there should have been more urgency last game. But you're right, though. I'm glad you offered that perspective because it's been such a topsy-turvy year. Like, we're only 2 games behind the first place team in the entire conference, not just the division.
It's wide open.
And
you know, with everything that just happened to this team in the year that we've had, you're telling me we're only 2 games out of first, not just in the AFC North, but in the AFC. Like, that's mind blowing.
Right.
So yeah, it's some good perspective, Jason. Like, we don't give up yet. You know, I hope the coaching staff hasn't because there's still something to fight for right now.
But here's the thing. Cincinnati is 8-6. Baltimore is 8-6.
We split with them.
But what Jason was saying is we got the tiebreaker over both those teams right now.
Over the Bengals. I don't know.
And the Ravens because we split the series and we have a better divisional record.
Okay.
Because their record in the division is atrocious. They have gotten beat up by the teams in their division. So Baltimore's really put us in a good position. We have all the tiebreakers in the AFC North. That's why I think that was our best shot at making the playoffs was winning our division. You know what I mean? And so, but you're right, man, with how topsy-turvy everything is, it's still up there.
Here's the problem though. With this loss, not only do we drop to the last place in the AFC North like we talked about, but we're now 12th overall in the AFC playoff standings. So for us to even get back into the wild card race, a lot would need to happen. Like Buffalo would have to trip up.
I think you're asking too much to try to be a wild card team. I think that our realest shot is still by winning the division.
But not really, guys. Not really. And this is why I say it. Remember, we got 2 in-divisional games in the AFC North. Other teams do too as well. So there's a lot of opponents are going to be playing their conference players their conference team as well. So you have that working in their favor. And the playoffs, there's an extra wild card team. So it's a total of 3 wild card teams, and we're only 1 game out of first in our division.
Right.
So it is not really far-fetched to think that we can't put us out.
So right now, this is what the AFC standings look like. You got Kansas City 1, New England 2, Tennessee 3, Cincinnati 4, Indianapolis 5, Chargers 6, Bills 7, Ravens 8, Steelers 9, Raiders 10, Dolphins 11, Browns are 12, Broncos are 13, and then the Jets, Texans, and Jaguars are all eliminated. So, yeah.
Yeah, this is absolutely doable. I believe the Raiders got to still play the Broncos or play the Chargers or probably got a game against the Chiefs. So you got to factor that in there.
Yeah. So according to Boston Sports Report, who I recently did a video collaboration with, we actually play the Cavs actually play the Celtics tonight. So go Cavs, beat the Celtics. We'll talk about that in a minute. But he says the Bengals conference record is 6-3. The Ravens conference record is 5-5. Steelers conference record is 5-4. And the Browns conference record is 4-6.
Right, but the tiebreaker in the division is the divisional record and not the conference record. So it's the divisional record that matters in the tiebreaker. So what I was referring to is if you look at the records within the AFC North, we actually own the tiebreaker because we have a better record in the North than Baltimore does.
What if we sweep the Bengals?
And yeah, exactly. We blew the doors off the Bengals that one game, which is like, where did that come from?
Yeah. I mean, this offense is so confusing because, like, we put up 42 points against the Chargers. We put up 29 against the Kansas City Chiefs in week 1. And then we put up 40-something against the Bengals in I think that was week 9 or whatever it was. But other than that, we put up 14 this week. We put up like 7 against the Patriots. We put up like 14 or whatever against the Cardinals.
Yeah, the offense has just not been there.
No.
And you know why? I think teams figured this out. And when we got figured out, because it's the NFL, everybody's going to figure you out eventually. It's just a matter of time with the film, and you'll get figured out. But once you get figured out, what's your next plan or what's your next step? And we haven't done that part. And that's the frustrating part, because we got figured out. Bill Belichick, he showed the proper way on how to go against the Browns. And it's a copycat league. Other teams seen it was successful. They're doing the same format. And we have yet to adapt to them adapting to us. So
right.
That's the problem.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I agree with you 100%.
It is.
We got to recreate ourselves with fields.
Well, let me ask you this, though, because I know the two of you aren't Baker Mayfield fans by any means. But did this not shine some light on the situation to at least show that, Baker might not be the best option for the future, but right now, he's the best option we got.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think we learned that. Compared to Mullins and compared to Case Keenum and what we saw from those two, he's still the best option we got. I'm still with you guys on the fact that, look, I don't think he's the quarterback of the future. I don't. But it just really shines a light on the direness of our situation at quarterback, because it's that's the best we got by far, in my opinion.
And you can only go so far. You only go as far as your quarterback takes you, right?
Mm-hmm. And once they start to figure you out, just like Jason was just saying, so now you take the fact that Baker's playing hurt, which is already bad, so he's not 100%, and teams have figured him out. So it's and then his injuries are even making his shortcomings worse, because he struggles with accuracy. Those are the things that he has trouble with. And when you have shoulder issues or, it's not good for that. It's a recipe for disaster. And they've rode with him till the wheels literally fell off of the entire season. And now we're sitting here at 500. It's just, it's frustrating, but it's man, he's still the best we got.
We got
I'm so sure about that, to be honest.
We got 50 games of data on him, okay? And he's only one game above 500 for his whole career. That's 4 years worth of games and data. So we know the film doesn't lie, and we know it is he is what the camera says he is. And like Bill Parcells said, we are what our record says.
Record says we are.
They are who we thought they were.
That's a different quote, but yeah, they both apply. Yeah.
Yes, I know, but I still felt like that quote applied in this situation. But Brian, I don't necessarily agree with you, because with Baker Mayfield being so banged up right now, he's got a torn labrum, he's got a couple issues with his feet and other various injuries. A healthy Case Keenum probably would have been better for us in a couple of the games that we lost, at least. If you go back and look at some of our recent games, we only lost to the Raiders by 2. We beat the Lions by 3. We lost to the Ravens by 6.
But you think Case Keenum's enough to take our team over the edge against that? That's the thing. I don't. I don't think
Case Keenum at least is healthy.
He limited also, though.
Yeah, he's also super limited. He doesn't have the arm strength Baker has. He can't make Like, and when you look at Mullins, I mean, he didn't do the air yards thing. We talk about air yards with Baker a lot. Like he throws the short passes and the dink and dunks. When Mullins had to throw the ball 15 yards or more in the air, he only completed one pass all night. He struggled mightily,
Right.
So he's no better, So we know Mullins isn't. And from what I saw in the one game that Case Keenum did play, he didn't inspire anything out of me. I didn't see him make a single play that I wouldn't like, that I thought Baker couldn't make himself.
Solid, man.
I get your point that at least he's 100% healthy, Josh, but I still don't think that 100% Case Keenum is that much better than a 85% Baker or whatever he is.
By Baker Mayfield, and I found this is crazy. I'm even defending Baker Mayfield.
I know, I love it, but this is good. This is what we need to do. We need to challenge our own concepts.
Baker Mayfield is I compare it to going to a grocery store. Okay, you want to get a Baker Mayfield because that's all we have at the store. If they have Case Keenum's, it'll work because it's kind of like Baker. It's a non-name brand, but it'll do the same job. But Baker give you that other stuff that this generic brand doesn't, and they're the same. They're the same quarterback, except for Case Keenum doesn't make the mistakes that Baker Mayfield do, and Case Keenum is smart to know his limitations. He knows I can't run faster than anybody on this team. I can't throw it 70 yards, so I'm not going to do those things. And it may not look sexy, but Baker, his mind, he thinks he's faster than everyone, which is bizarre. And he thinks that he can throw the ball further than when it needs to be thrown. Or that's where the inaccuracies come from. So,
right.
Keenum, he's a good backup, but Baker is a backup quarterback. If we want to be real about this, he's not a starting quarterback, but he's a backup, and I would keep him as a backup role, but he's not the future, the face of the franchise at all.
I'll be honest with you. Leading up to that draft where Baker Mayfield was one of the options, you also had Sam Darnold, Josh Allen. Baker Mayfield was not at the top of my list. Before Sam Darnold turned into what he is now, he was at the top of my list along with Josh Allen.
And I agree with Allen, but
again, that's before like the New York Jets.
I get it. Yeah, I
Sam
just
Darnold.
I wasn't that impressed with him at USC, to be honest.
Yeah,
but
I liked what I saw from Sam Darnold at USC personally. So, I'm glad we did not take Josh Rosen because he fizzled out. But that's also because the Arizona Cardinals completely pulled the rug out from underneath him. But I just want to explain something. So like I said, we lost by 2 against the Raiders, 16-14. We beat the Ravens by 2, 24-22. And then we lost to the Ravens before our bye week, 16-10. And then we beat the Lions by 3. Those aren't that wide of margins. And I get it. When you go 11-5 the previous season, you're going to have a target on your back. I get that. But the thing is, if you're going to prove that like last season wasn't a fluke, you got to go out and, I'm not going to say blow out teams because, again, it's the NFL. Anything can happen. I get that. But you got to
impose your will.
Exactly. There you go. And the Browns don't appear to be doing that.
Right.
And I hear a lot of people saying, oh, if they had a reliable field goal kicker, they would have beaten the Ravens on that Sunday night game, or they would have beaten the Raiders on Monday or whatever it was. You can't blame it squarely on Chase McLaughlin.
Yeah, it's bad.
Granted, he has struggled this season after getting off to a pretty decent start early on, but still, you can't blame like this
Play
failure of a season on him.
Baker and play calling.
Yeah. And
I'm not blaming the whole season on him, but you could certainly blame him for not making kicks that a professional kicker should make.
Yeah.
I have no problem saying that he's been terrible the last couple games, and
Yeah.
he's missed some really easy kicks.
And that's fine. And I don't think I'm crazy for saying this season is a failure.
It is.
No, I don't. Nobody's arguing that it's not. Yeah.
Because here's the thing. After, like I just said, the Browns went 11-5. They went into Pittsburgh and beat the Steelers for the first time in like 17 or 18 games, however long that streak was. And then they go into Kansas City and take the Chiefs right down to the wire. Granted, Patrick Mahomes was injured for part of that game, so that probably changed the outcome of it. No, it did change the outcome. But still, you go 11-5 and you do all that. So people, fans and media members alike, which I think we're a little bit of both, are saying, oh, the Browns are going to win the division. They're going to get back to the AFC divisional round. They're going to go to the AFC championship game. Yada, 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 yada. And what do? They live up to expectations, which is not living up to expectations. Because every time you put expectations on the Browns, you know what they do? Woo! Like that. It's like it's in their DNA. I hate to say it. I don't want to sound like a party pooper, given that my channel is Cleveland Browns based, but I got to be a realist.
Team is adapted. They adapted to us, just like with the Chiefs earlier this season. People was thinking the Chiefs was just it was the end of the apocalypse because everybody was beating up on the Chiefs. Chiefs wasn't scoring, but they figured out the Chiefs and how you stop the Chiefs. You have deep defenders, and you make them have to throw those short passes, and that was something that they wasn't accustomed to. But they've adapted, and now they're on a winning streak, and now they're number one in the AFC. And the same thing we're dealing with that now. They've figured us out. The Bills team figured them out, so they have to recreate themselves, and that's where Stefanski. This is where you get paid the big bucks to do, man. We got to be recreated. We got to create a new identity.
Regardless of what happens for the rest of this year, I think that this is the most important offseason that this team has had in decades. You got to make a decision on the quarterback going forward. You're going to have to make some decisions about the defense because that's, there's got to be some changes moving forward with the defense.
For sure.
So there's a lot of big decisions that need to be made this offseason, and that's whether we win out or we lose out, So it's like I see what you're saying, Josh. It doesn't feel good, but that's why I think it's so important that with these last three games, man, they put it all on the line, because anything could still happen.
Yeah.
And for how many times we've shot ourselves in the foot, and how many times we fell short, and how many times we had a chance to win a game and we didn't, for us to still be in position to make it into the playoffs, like, hey, you got to take advantage,
Right. The Lions ran in the Cardinals for crying out loud. So, I mean, any given Sunday.
That's what I'm saying. People, you never know what's going to happen between now and Christmas Day. That Green Bay game can look a lot different. You never know what's going to happen between then and then the last two games we have in the division. We got the Steelers and we got you just don't know what's going to happen between now and then. And
right.
But with the position you're in now, it's all or nothing now. You got to be all in.
All the poker chips are on the table.
Mm-hmm. So for people who want a spot on this team moving forward and who want to be a part of this culture moving forward, you've got the chance now to show like that you're one of those guys. And the people who quit in these last three games, we're going to see some people quit. There's some people on that team right now that they're not excited about playing out the rest of the year. And those are the guys we don't need, And so this last three games, like whether we make it or don't, whether we win them all or we lose them all, they're super important. And this offseason going into next year is just pivotal because Josh is right. It's been high expectations and then low results forever, and
Yep.
that has to change. And how do you change that? You do it with the decisions you make in the front office moving forward. And they've got some really, really big ones to make.
Like, remember 2019? Like, we make all these offseason additions. We hire Freddie Kitchens as the head coach on all this and that. We're on like 4 or 5 primetime games. Everybody's putting high expectations on us. And what happens? We go 6-10.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's happened before, and when you are trying to establish yourself in the NFL, nobody wins a Super Bowl in 1 year. Nobody comes out of the blue and wins a Super Bowl. It don't happen. It is a culture thing.
Tampa Bay.
And they had a lot of talent, man. They've had all the talent in the world, man. That was like a Pro Bowl team. I don't know. I wouldn't consider that coming out of nowhere. That's a team that was built from the ground up, that had a culture there that was, when you got the right guy in, when you brought Tom in and you brought the right coach in, they were ready to win because of the culture there. We don't have that yet. We brought on paper, this team was a Super Bowl team on paper. We had the flashy guys. We had Jarvis and OBJ and people who thought Baker was better than he is. We had the flashy, high-powered offense. That was the perception going in here. And it's not there. So, the culture has to change. And these are the moments when teams that are going to be playoff teams in the future and are going to be Super Bowl teams in the future, they don't crumble. And when they're 7-7 or when they're 500 going into their last 3 games of the year and they have injuries and they have adversity, they don't crumble. They elevate their game in those moments. And it's going to be interesting to see if any of the Browns players have that in their DNA.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So I'm excited. I'm still really excited about the end of the year just because there's so much to find out. There's so many question marks. It's been such a crazy topsy-turvy year. It's just like, I have no clue who's going to win this division. I know. And it's pretty wild. So,
yeah, I really don't know. But switching gears a little bit.
Yeah, we need to cover the Cavs quick before we are done here because we do. We got to start getting ready for our next show. So we got about 10 minutes here to cover the Cavs. So
yeah,
let's try to in 10 minutes, talk some Cavs here and give them the love that they deserve, because that's a team that has done the opposite of what the Browns have done.
Yes,
they are in amazing position this far into the season compared to what we thought at the beginning of the year. So let's talk about some good stuff.
Yes. Last year we were 22-50. So, and it just looked, so it's no wonder people are like, oh yeah, forget about the Cavs. They're going to be a lottery team. They'll be with the Detroit Pistons and they'll be with, excuse me,
the Thunders of the world and the Magics of the world.
Yeah, they'll be with the Detroit Pistons, the Orlando Magics, the Oklahoma City Thunders, the Sacramento Kings, those teams. No, we're third in the Eastern Conference. We're 19-12. I believe we're only a game back of the Chicago Bulls for first place in the Central Division, if I remember correctly. I'll double check on that right now.
I think they're 2 games up.
No, we are a game behind Chicago in the Central Division, and we are 2.5 back of Brooklyn for the first place in the Eastern Conference. We are 19-12. We're on a 6-game winning streak. And, people are going to say, yeah, you beat the Milwaukee Bucks, but they didn't have Giannis. They didn't have Chris Middleton. They didn't have Drew Holiday, blah, 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 blah. I don't care. I don't want to hear that. Because you know why? The Bucks are still the defending NBA champions. So it's significant if you beat the defending NBA champions. And you know what else? When we played them the first time around, that was on the second night of a back-to-back after losing a hard-fought game against the Utah Jazz. And you know what? We only lost by 8 against the Bucks the first time around. 112-104. So we showed that we could hang with the Bucks.
And I'd argue this team's in a totally different position now than they were that last game. They've come a long way. But the problem with what's going on now is we've got 8 guys now in COVID protocol. We can't field a team right now. And it's like when you're on a 6-game winning streak and you're just overcoming everybody's expectations and you've got all of this good stuff going on right now. And then it just gets derailed by the health stuff. And that's where you kind of have to pump the brakes on the Cavs season a little bit, I think, because we've got a lot of guys out right now. We've got a lot to overcome with the COVID stuff going on.
I think the league seriously need to consider the bubble again.
Yeah.
Sucks.
I don't think we're gonna be able to solve the COVID mystery completely, but the one thing that this is going to do is it's going to separate the good teams from the bad teams, more. The gap's going to grow even wider, teams that have a deeper bench are going to play a lot better later into this year because every team's going to be dealing with COVID issues. They're going to have 3 or 4 or 5 guys out at a time, any given point in the season. That's why I agree with what you were saying, Josh. Who cares? Everybody's got guys out right now. But that makes me want to kind of pull back my expectations a little bit because it'd be real easy for things to go south quickly with what the Cavs are going through right now.
Yeah, I get that. But, Jason, you and I talked about this on a previous episode of the Sports Journals, which you can find on the So What's the Catch Facebook page, which we will be posting this episode on the So What's the Catch Facebook page once we are done with this episode. I know I just said episode a couple of times. Oh, well. But, people aren't going to come see your product if you're not putting out a winning team. In the first 4 years, when LeBron went to Miami, we were consistently in the lottery. We were consistently vying for a top 3 or 4 pick, usually. And it's why are fans going to go and watch a team that could possibly lose a home game by 30? That doesn't seem very exciting. And I think Cavs ownership saw that. And so they're trying to field a winning team this time around. With LeBron gone. Like I said, we kind of talked about that in a previous episode.
About LeBron, this is a rumor, okay? and trust me, before I disclose this, I don't want this to happen. So I just want to be clear.
LeBron's coming back.
Man, they're saying that's where the disconnect with him. If you've watched the Lakers play this year, he does look older, man. He's aged, and it shows. But he's not happy, of course, right? You build your roster and you bounce. They say that he loves what Cleveland's doing. He loves the young pieces we have. And there's an exec an anonymous Eastern Conference exec that says he would not be surprised if LeBron comes back to Cleveland because of that. Of course, they're not going to put the name on it, but you can see the writing on the wall already.
Yeah.
I tell you what, this team is better than a lot of the teams that he played on in Cleveland. Well, if you add him to it, I'm saying, obviously this team's not going to make the finals. We're not making the finals this year, but with him, it's a different ball game, and that's probably what he sees. It's like, man, if I had this kind of group of guys around me, we would have been great,
None of them either. Like that's off the table.
Yep.
But here's the thing, though. Like, if LeBron does come to us or come back to us, however you want to say it, isn't that going to mess up our rotation a little bit? Because right now we have something good with, they have me eating my words. Because, when I saw that they were going to do the big three, literally the big three of Lowry Markkanen, who's like close to 7 feet, Evan Mobley, who's also close to 7 foot. I don't think he's exactly 7 foot, but close to it. And Jared Allen, who's also close to 7 foot. I'm like, that's not going to work. The rest of the league is going small ball, and that just doesn't work. But they have me eating my words right now.
I tell you, Eddie Altman.
I agree with everything you're saying, Josh, but you still take LeBron if you have the opportunity. You still take him.
We're missing the three. That's the only thing. If we want to be candid, we got all the other pieces, but we don't have that three. And
I don't know if we have a two.
We can still do 3 7-footers. Well, we got Color Sexton.
I don't like that pairing of Sexton and Garland together when they're healthy. I don't like it. It feels like for me, when I'm watching them play, it feels like the offense gets stuck. And it's like you're waiting and waiting and waiting.
Just dribbling.
Yeah, it's like it feels like either Sexton holds the ball for too long.
He improved this year, but yeah, he does that.
Yeah, I just don't like that. I don't want to say this since I'm trying to think of how to say this since Sexton is injured. But basically, I like how the offense is flowing with Garland running the show versus Sexton.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Sexton come off the bench. If he's a what he is? He's a volume scorer, but he's a volume scorer where he comes in with the substitutes. And so he gets his points off.
Yeah.
And
you get
protection from him.
Yeah. I think he'd be a good 6-man, but the problem with Sexton is he don't want to be a 6-man. Colin Sexton, he wants to shoot, and he wants to shoot every time.
That's the problem.
That is the problem. But
it is.
Well, we got to get things wrapped up here so we can start getting prepped for our next show. But guys, what are your last thoughts here? What do we want to leave the fans with before next week? Because it's looking like we're probably going to use this format for the near future. Just with the COVID going on, I think it's the best bet would be to plan on doing it this way next week. So everybody who's in the chat, thank you so much for being here.
Somebody just joined at the last minute. Hold on 1 sec. Welcome to the show, young Link.
Hey,
what's going
on? What's going on, Max?
Hey, good to have you here.
Hey, wait. I think I remember you from the Chargers video collaboration. Is that
I'm a Chargers fan. Yeah, you interviewed me in LA, man. That was an epic game too.
That's right. What you got?
Yeah, we got our own issues too, man. We should have won Thursday night, but it is what it is. But I was gonna ask y'all, man. I mean, I really don't hate the Browns, man, because I watched that game. I was like, I know people kind of talk negative about Baker Mayfield. To me personally, I told you, Max, like I think Baker Mayfield's probably one of y'all best quarterbacks in that franchise. And I know a lot of people don't agree with that.
That was kind of what I was saying today. Yeah, like he's the best we got,
Your audio's cutting out a little bit.
Yeah, I think we're losing you a little bit, but no, I think he made his point already, though. And I think that his point is, maybe you guys aren't crazy about him, but he's the best one that you've put out there.
Yeah. We can do better. That's the whole point.
That's where I think the three of us are at right now. We want better, but he may have a point that it might be the best we can get. Cleveland's we're a small market. We're not
Right.
an attractive free agent destination. So maybe
People are different. They're they're really about the how the NBA is like, oh, I'd rather go to Miami.
Yeah.
NFL, you go where you're drafted.
Mhm.
And when you then who pays you the most after your first contract. So
Yeah.
So like, because I was cut off. So you guys think like if Baker Mayfield was playing against the Raiders, y'all would have won that game?
More likely than not. But
Okay.
here's the thing. Which as a result of that Raiders loss, we only went 1-3 against the AFC West this season. We have the opportunity to go 4-0 against the NFC North if we beat the Packers on Saturday. But that's a different discussion for a different day. The problem I have with the Browns is this. They try to fit I'm trying to remember how the saying goes. I think it's a round peg in a square hole. Is that how? I think that's roughly how the saying goes. And what I mean by that is like they've drafted capable quarterbacks before Baker Mayfield. Like I liked when we drafted Colt McCoy, for example. But the problem is they don't tailor the offense to fit that quarterback's strengths or skill set, however you want to say it. They just say, okay, quarterback A, we're sticking you in our offense, and we don't care if your skill set doesn't fit our offense. We're still going to force you to run this style of offense.
It's poor management.
I think
drafting.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's why I was saying how important this offseason is going to be. We got a lot of important decisions moving forward, but we are running out of time, though. We really got to get things wrapped up. We are up against our next show.
Yeah,
thank you for joining. We appreciate you jumping on here, man. It was awesome to have another voice. So make sure you jump on next week. We'd love to have you for longer. We'll try to get you involved before the last minute of the show next time.
Yeah. I was listening in too, so I like the content. But thanks for having me.
Thanks, man. Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, we'll see you next week then. Join us at 2:00 on So What's the Catch if you want.
All right.
Sweet.
All right. Peace out.
All right, guys. I think that's all from us. Jason, you got any last words? Josh, anything last?
You guys want to plug your channels or anything?
I just right now I'll just focus on my Twitter at Brian Fraley on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter for right now. On there I can direct you towards the other content and things. But yeah, that's all I got right now.
Catch me on Facebook.
He's trying to get to 100 subscribers because if he does, he'll eat a Carolina Reaper pepper and he'll go to hell and back for our enjoyment.
Yeah, that's the hunt. Once we get to 100 subscribers, that video will be up there. So stick around for that. But
on Christmas, that's what Santa's going to give us. So I can't.
I love it. I love the optimism. We're going to end it with that. The Browns are going to beat the Green Bay Packers on Christmas. You heard it here first. Merry Christmas, everybody. It's been a great show. And we'll see you guys at 2:00 if you're going to join us. If not, we'll see you next week at the same time on here. So thanks, everybody.
Same time next week, knuckleheads.
Thanks, Tony.
I know, right?
Or Wilbon, sorry.